one of the things that's really different about Arabic is that it comes from a whole different family structure than English. So the structure of the language itself is different than English. So the way you would communicate an idea in English would be different than how you would communicate it in Arabic. So for instance, if I wanted to say something like, the red ball that I watched hit the wall, or something along those lines. In Arabic, you'd have to switch these words around, and you'd have to say something like, I watched it, the red ball which I saw hit the wall. Something along those lines. So and that may not be perfect, but it's just switched around. It's completely different. To where in English generally you have the noun first and then the verb, and adjectives go afterwards. In Arabic, oftentimes you have the verb first and then the noun, and then nouns and adjectives are different from English. So you might say, instead of saying the red ball, you say the ball, the red one. Or instead of saying he ran, or Jim ran to the store, you say something like he ran Jim to the store. Something along those lines. So things are just different there. You have different pronunciations. Like there's a letter called the Ain, where you'd say, so for instance, you say Ali. Ali it's got an Ain right at the beginning. So if that was an A, it would just be Ali. But with an Ain, it's Ali. So that's where Aladdin comes from, the name of Aladdin. It's Ala ad-Din is Aladdin in Arabic, and it has that Ain right at the beginning. There are different grammar rules. There was a lot of grammar that we had to learn, and totally new language principles learning what, some of these I knew, but some of them I didn't. Knowing what a noun, a verb, an adjective, those are easy. Adverb, predicate, let's see, what else was there? Nominative, genitive, subjunctive, what other words do we have? Passive, active. You have to learn what all these different ideas mean and how to communicate them in this totally different language, which was different, totally different. So another difference, for instance, would be when you have pronouns in English. So you say my plate, or my ball, or her house. Those are two different words in English. In Arabic, it's all lumped together. And so you have house and then you have her, but it's part of the same word. Arabic is really heavily verb. It's verb heavy, meaning that but in one way this is kind of cool. The language is centered around verbs in a big way. So in Arabic, and this is the same with Hebrew as well, you have something called the triliteral root, which means you have 3 letters. And in Arabic, the vowels generally are not written. When you write Arabic, you generally don't write the vowels in. So you can imagine trying to read an English book, like a book in English, without any vowels. You know, that's tough. That would be tough in English. Same thing with Arabic, it's tough. And that's just another level of complexity in Arabic, because you have to know the language. It's almost like in order to understand it, you have to already know it well enough to be able to figure out how are they using this word and this word and this word. So it's a tough language, but so you've got these triliteral roots, and it's 3 letters from the alphabet, 3 of the consonants, and each 3-letter cluster has a certain type of meaning. So when you have, for instance, del, ra, sin, so it's like a D-R-S kind of sound. Those 3 letters together have to do with this idea of learning. And so you use those 3 consonants, and then you put more consonants, you fit them in somewhere around them, and you put vowels, and you can have different combinations of vowels, and it makes all these different ideas that have to do with learning. So you could do, for instance, darasa is he learned. Darrasa, so a little bit longer on the R. Darrasa, he taught. So he made someone to learn. Darastu, I taught. Darasa, he taught. Darasat, darasta, darasti. All these different ways you can use these three sounds to make up a meaning. And so with every meaning that you have, you've got these three roots. And often when you have a noun, they kind of come from these three roots. So if you have a noun that has to do with learning, sometimes it'll come from darasa. So for instance, kataba is to write. He wrote, kataba. But a kitab is a book. Kitab, kataba, kitab. So it's kind of the same. There's those three roots, using them in different ways makes it a noun, a verb, an adjective. And so in that way it's kind of cool. And when you use a dictionary, you look up words by these three roots. So you kind of have to know the language a little bit even to use a dictionary. You have to know that what the three roots are. Then you look it up, and then you have to know where to look past that to find the word. So it's just completely different than English, or it seems like a little bit. But hard work, dedication, and I'd say a lot of practice. A lot of practice on the basics, the basic principles. I realized that when I was on my study abroad over in Jordan and Israel, because I had gone through probably about 2 to 3 years of Arabic here at BYU in preparation to go over there. And we learned all the basic and kind of intermediate principles of Arabic grammar and speaking and things like that. Excuse me. And then we went over to the Middle East to learn more of the advanced type of things. But what I had found when I was over there is that because language learning for me initially especially was a difficult thing, I had not mastered some of the beginning basic techniques because we were just moving so fast and it was a new experience and I just didn't catch everything. And that made it so much harder to become a fluent speaker, to be able to write well. And so when I was on the study abroad, I picked 3 or 4 of the most basic principles of Arabic. And for maybe 20 minutes a day, I would just review those basic principles. And I would review saying words in a certain way, putting phrases together in a certain way. And I found that after I got those, even it was just 3 or 4 basic principles. Once I got those down, my speaking just transformed, my writing transformed, and it was amazing to see how just those little things had such a huge effect on my language ability as a whole.